If 1923 really brings back this character, it could risk Yellowstone Season 5's worst mistake. One of Taylor Sheridan's characters has a chance to reappear in 1923 Season 2. But if he does, it could repeat one of the biggest problems with Yellowstone Season 5. Taylor Sheridan has played 4 characters in his own shows and movies, and they range from unnamed characters to main cast members. One of Sheridan's cameo characters in particular, Charles Goodnight from 1883, could soon join the cast of 1923 Season 2. While it is possible for Goodnight to appear in 1923, there's some evidence that may prove it's not a great idea for Sheridan to reprise the role. Yellowstone Season 5 was the end of the show, and for many longtime fans, it felt underwhelming. Kevin Costner's departure from Yellowstone certainly didn't help, but there was also a general sense that the story of the Dutton family should have amounted to more. There were plenty of reasons why Yellowstone Season 5 failed to live up to expectations, but one of the more salient problems with the show's final outing was Taylor Sheridan himself. Sheridan's writing was fine, but his Yellowstone character hurt that show, and it could be a bad omen for Charles Goodnight in 1923. In the premiere of 1923 Season 2, Tana Rainwater, Amina Neves, and Pete Plenty Clouds, Jeremy Ghana, discovered they had wandered onto a ranch after meeting a cowboy. As the cowboy explained, the land they were on belonged to a Mr. Goodnight, and Taylor Sheridan played Charles Goodnight in 1883. Runs his horse, Michael Spears, then declared he was going to try to meet with Goodnight, which means Sheridan could reprise his 1883 role in 1923 Season 2. While it's far from confirmed that Sheridan will play Goodnight again, reprising his character may be more trouble than it's worth. If Taylor Sheridan does seize his opportunity to appear in 1923 Season 2 as Charles Goodnight, it has the potential to be just as divisive as his appearance as Travis Wheatley in Yellowstone. If 1923 takes a few moments to focus on Charles Goodnight and have him interact with Tiana and her group, it will only detract from the rest of the show's more interesting stories. Watching Goodnight brag about his relationship with Quanah Parker wouldn't be nearly as interesting as moving closer to the confrontation between Tana, Marshall Kent, Jamie McShane, and Father Renaud, Sebastian Rochet, for example. Charles Goodnight's potential appearance in 1923 Season 2 is also extremely reminiscent to one of Yellowstone Season 5's worst mistakes, Travis Wheatley. Taylor Sheridan had appeared as Travis in a handful of Yellowstone episodes dating back to Season 1, but in Yellowstone Season 5, he became a major part of the show. In fact, Travis got such a massive role in Yellowstone Season 5 that he stole precious time away from the much more pressing stories of the show's main characters. The ending of Yellowstone already felt rushed, and Travis only made it worse. A great example of the effect Travis had on Yellowstone is his story with Beth Kelly Riley. In the final episodes of the show, instead of pursuing her revenge against Jamie, Wes Bentley, Yellowstone had Beth deal with Travis for an extended period of time. That time was quite valuable, and it would have been put to better use by exploring the ends of some of Sheridan's most beloved characters, rather than exploring the life of a small recurring character. Travis was fine as a bit of comedic humor that appeared once a season, but once he became a central figure of Yellowstone, the show suffered. Travis Wheatley is just a sign of a problem that has been happening in several of Taylor Sheridan's cameo appearances. Even Cody Spears, Sheridan's lioness character, and the second most recent role he played, got an overly important role in the ending of the show, and he stole time away from Joe's, Zoe Saldana, story. Sheridan has to figure out how to write a cameo character who adds to the overall story of his shows, instead of feeling like an unnecessary self-insert before he makes another on-screen appearance. Unfortunately, Sheridan may not have learned that lesson in time for 1923 Season 2. One of the oddest parts of Sheridan's recent indulgent cameos is that he used to be much better at them. Sheridan's characters in Hell or High Water and 1883 were both prime examples of a good cameo. They were important for a bit. They did their thing, and they promptly left, so their respective stories could refocus on the main characters. If Goodnight does appear in 1923 Season 2, and he's like Travis in Yellowstone, rather than the cowboy in Hell or High Water, he may end up exacerbating 1923's already slow pace and bringing Tana's story to a grinding halt. Since its debut, 1923 has proven to be a compelling prequel within Taylor Sheridan's ever-expanding Yellowstone universe, providing depth to the Dutton family's generational saga. However, rumors are swirling that 1923 may bring back a key character in a manner that echoes one of Yellowstone Season 5's biggest missteps. If these rumors turn out to be true, 1923 risks undermining its own narrative integrity and repeating history's mistakes. The risk of resurrection fatigue. Yellowstone has been criticized for making questionable character choices, and Season 5 was no exception. One of its biggest mistakes was over-relying on familiar faces rather than pushing the story forward in an organic way. Whether it was through forced comebacks or unnecessarily prolonging character arcs that had seemingly reached their natural conclusion, the show struggled to maintain momentum. Now, 1923 faces a similar dilemma. While bringing back a beloved character may seem like a thrilling move to captivate audiences, it risks the same pitfalls that Yellowstone Season 5 encountered: stagnation, over-explanation, and fan service at the expense of genuine storytelling. If a character presumed dead or written out is suddenly reintroduced, it could cheapen the stakes of the narrative, making the consequences of past events feel insignificant. The problem with overplaying nostalgia. Sheridan's Yellowstone franchise thrives on its gritty realism, familial conflicts, and high-stakes drama. However, there is a fine line between honoring a character's legacy and shoehorning them back into the plot simply to please longtime viewers. Season 5 of Yellowstone struggled with this, particularly in how it handled certain character arcs that had already played out. Instead of allowing organic growth, the show clung to familiar dynamics that had already run their course. If 1923 follows this pattern, it could betray its own identity as a strong, self-contained prequel. The show has done an admirable job of standing on its own, carving out its unique place within the Yellowstone mythology. Introducing a character who should have remained in the past could disrupt that balance, making the show feel more like an accessory to Yellowstone rather than its own compelling narrative. The danger of weakening character arcs. The key to 1923's success has been its willingness to embrace new perspectives within the Dutton lineage. Characters like Jacob, Harrison Ford, and Kara, Helen Mirren, have anchored the show with performances that feel grounded in the era's brutal reality. By potentially reintroducing a character whose arc had seemingly concluded, the show risks weakening the arcs of those who remain. For example, let's say a character previously believed to be dead is suddenly revealed to have survived against all odds. While this might provide a temporary shock, it can ultimately undermine the emotional weight of their supposed demise. When Yellowstone toyed with similar ideas in Season 5, it led to a sense that nothing truly mattered, because in the end, no one ever really left. 1923 must be careful not to fall into this trap, as it would compromise the integrity of the world it has so carefully built. The narrative impact of undoing past events. One of the great strengths of the Yellowstone universe is its commitment to consequence. When characters make bold choices, those choices have lasting effects. If 1923 decides to bring back a character who had seemingly been written out or killed off, it runs the risk of invalidating past events. Consider a scenario in which a character's departure drove significant character development for others. Their return could instantly diminish the emotional growth that followed, rendering the struggles of those left behind meaningless. This is exactly what happened in Yellowstone Season 5. Certain character arcs felt repetitive because the show refused to let them evolve. 1923 must avoid making the same mistake by prioritizing story over shock value. How 1923 can avoid repeating Yellowstone's mistakes. If Sheridan is determined to reintroduce a past character into 1923, he must do so in a way that serves the greater narrative rather than simply appeasing fans. Here are some ways 1923 can navigate this potential pitfall. Use flashbacks instead of resurrections. If the character in question is crucial to the story, their presence can be explored through well-placed flashbacks rather than forced survival stories. This maintains their importance while preserving narrative integrity. Ensure the return serves a purpose. Any character brought back must contribute meaningfully to the existing story rather than feeling like an artificial addition. Their return should elevate the stakes, not dilute them.